Welcome back to the Djellab channel, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you guys are doing very well at home. Joining me today, my two best men.
Oh,
if I was getting married, my two best men.
You are getting married, aren't you?
Yeah. Not anytime soon. I know.
Hope your girlfriend's watching this.
Not anytime soon. Patrick Van Straten, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, it's raining. It's getting cold. I'm so happy, Zach.
Yeah.
I'm cooling down. I've been like roasting for months. I can't deal with it. I'm just ready. I'm ready for autumn. I'm actually going on holiday.
You are in September, yes.
Yeah, but it's good to be back with you guys. I've missed you.
Indeed, same. I was away last week in Italy. Henry Hill, you were in Italy. How are you doing?
I was not in Italy. I'm good, thank you. But yeah, Pat does make a good point. You probably need to. Will you ever have a girlfriend again that provides such love?
All right, let's calm down. Let's calm down.
This is why you're trying to get a sponsorship deal so that you can afford a bigger ring.
Zach, I know this is really scandalous, but I know your watch-through rate is only about 5 minutes, so I'm just going to quickly plug this now.
Yes, go ahead.
My new quiz
Go ahead.
on Football Joe. It's going to be in the link below.
It is.
I think.
It is.
Please go watch it. Just criticise it. Do anything you want. Just go comment on it. Just go give it a watch and see if you enjoy it, and maybe you can watch it every week after that. But yeah, watch that now. Just thought I'd get that in now.
No, 100%.
Yeah, Zach, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm very good, thank you. Make sure you check it out. It'll be in the link below, along with everybody else's channels as well. We're talking about transfers, guys, because it closes next week. I think this time next week, actually.
Thank God.
The transfer window will be closing. And we're going to be looking at which players need to force a move out. Their last chance, quite possibly, as well. And I think, guys, let's just start it off with my club. Because I think we've got a few players here that we can end up talking about. We've each got three that we want to specifically mention.
That's 20 players, no? I thought that was
yeah. Well, hopefully, by the point this video's out, a couple of them will have moved on already. Firstly, let's talk about probably the biggest name, I guess, or the biggest talking point from the last week. Raheem Sterling. That was the person I was going to bring to the table.
You don't like it when people call him Raheem Sterling, do you?
No, because it's wrong. His name's Raheem.
Raheem, yeah. Well, actually, he told me he prefers Raz.
But do you not also think, but do you not also think, whenever I hear a commentator say Raheem Sterling, I'm like, this is the most middle-aged white man shit I've ever heard in my life. They're just like, he's called Raheem. They've never seen this name before. So like, he's been around for like 10 years now.
I was overpronouncing Raheem Sterling. Looks like he has no place in Maresca's squad. Not the type of winger that he wants to be using, apparently. Been at Chelsea now for 2 seasons. This would be his 3rd season. Contract ends in 2027. He's played 81 games, 19 goals, 12 assists. He turns 30 in December. Been playing football now for a long, long time. Made his debut back in 2012 when he was, I think, like 16 years old for Liverpool. And so it's an interesting situation here. I kind of feel for him. He is also on £300,000 a week plus. I think 325 is exactly what I saw. But whether you can actually believe them or not is
I can believe that. That sounds about right, doesn't it?
I think he's one of the last players to have been given this kind of huge contract. And he was definitely wanted by Thomas Tuchel. He was basically the guy that Thomas Tuchel wanted. That he was the number one signing that Tuchel wanted that summer. And only had him for about 2 months before he got moved on. And I think, since he's joined, Chelsea have kind of changed their transfer strategy, if there is some sort of strategy there, by going for a lot of younger players. He's the last older player.
That's not true. You got in Disasi. I think
Disasi was like 22.
No, he wasn't. He was like 25.
Oh, he's 25 now, surely.
Sterling is not finished. He was a sort of senior head. He was at the peak of his powers, technically, when you bought him, which is different to some of the players you bought.
He'd kind of dropped off that season with Pep, hadn't he? He'd kind of fallen out a little bit of Pep. He wasn't playing all the time. I think that's kind of what made him want to move.
I think City didn't want to give him the big contract. But I've got to say, he does not belong on this video. Because this is players who should force a move. And Sterling should not force a move.
But he wants to.
He should make them pay that contract forever. Like this is the thing. Like you say to Chelsea fans stuff like you've got too many players and it's a massive drain on your finances, and they're like, yeah, well, we want to move on all these guys. You're like, you can want it as much as you want, but they've got long contracts on huge money and it's really hard to move them. And the best case scenario for you with Sterling, I think, is that Sterling gets an attractive loan offer where they're going to pay 100% of his wages and probably not pay you a fee. Or they pay you a fee and they only pay half of his wages, so that you can at least book that fee. that to me is the best case scenario here, because like Sterling's got, I think he's got at least 2 more years on this contract.
Yeah, 2027 it ends. Yeah.
Jesus. And that was part of the thing, right? Part of the reason he left is because City wouldn't give him the length of contract he wanted. Chelsea gave him a huge contract, really long, massive money, said that he'd be important. Now, not being important sucks, especially when he was actually pretty good last year when he was on the field. And the idea that it's all like footballing reasons he was left out, bollocks. Don't believe it for a second. Because Mudryk was in the squad. Mudryk's done nothing since being at Chelsea. Even last year, Sterling was like a 0.5 expected goals per 90, tons of carries into the penalty area, like decent creative passing, as always, type player. Like he was still a good version of Raheem Sterling. Mm-hmm. He wasn't like a superstar anymore, but he was pretty good on a god-awful Chelsea side.
And he was asked to do a lot more than he was being asked at Man City.
And there were 2 players who got more goal involvements than him for Chelsea, Nicholas Jackson and Cole Palmer. That was it. And that's despite him playing limited minutes. So this idea that he was crap, Chelsea should move him on, like he's not good enough, it's just like, if I were making Chelsea's best 11, he would still be in it. Like that's how bad your squad building's been. You've basically changed your entire front line this summer and made it worse. You're like, let's buy Pedro Neto. He doesn't get in your first choice 11.
You don't think?
Why would he? Like what, on the right wing?
On the left? He plays both wings, doesn't he?
Not very well. He plays the right wing okay. He plays the left wing appallingly badly, in my opinion. Like, Nkunku's better there, and you've bought Joao Felix now as well.
True.
What is going on with this club? You've also bought Kieran Dewsbury Hall. Isn't he meant to play in the Hall? Isn't he meant to play the attacking role in a 3-man midfield? But you can't play a 3-man midfield because you bought 3 or 4 new attackers. And Nkunku's there who hasn't played yet. What is the plan here? Like, it's so moronic that I actually like. It almost makes me want to go to Chelsea's ground and be like, can I talk to someone? Because I'm like actually worried.
I did last week. Yeah.
Did you go and say to all the groundsmen and all the people working in the ticket office, you guys are all going to be out of jobs because the people running this have decided that they've got special insight into the way that football could be run, and what they're actually doing is moronic stuff, stockpiling players who they'll never use. They sacked a good manager for a guy who might be good and might be literally nothing. Like nobody knows at all. And they've got a bunch of players now they need to get rid of, which is exactly what everyone said they would be the problem a couple of years ago. Yeah. And they're just like, yeah, we'll move them on. We'll get 60 million for Madueke. No, you won't.
Yeah, I think Maresca's saying, I don't manage them. They just train by themselves.
Oh, great.
They're not part of my team. It's like, well, that's not really how a squad or an office works in general. They will all
not very much a normal office though, is it?
No, but they'll all be talking to each other. They'll all known each other for a while. Some of them are on crazy money. Everyone's like, they're not part of the squad. It's like, well, they are taking money from your bank account.
Lukaku's
there. I didn't really. You can't just lock out Lukaku for a year, Sterling for a year, even Datra Fofana. He's on like 100 grand. You can't just say
he's
to him,
no way.
He's on loan.
What? I don't think he has on loan.
I thought he was going to Leicester.
Don't think he is not yet. No.
Oh my god.
Is he on 100k? Surely.
No. The whole point was that you gave people generous contracts for that stage of the career, with the aim that when they got to 24 and they should actually be on more money, they would be getting less. Obviously, what you've done there is actually even dumber because you've renegotiated contracts. The whole point was, right, we've got you on a 7-year contract and we're going to pay you 100k a week. You know, Cole Palmer. So you're going to be on 100k. Doesn't matter if you become one of the best players in the world.
Wasn't they?
And then it doesn't matter. You had a long contract specifically to avoid having to up his wages, and then you upped his wages. So what's the point of the long contract? I don't understand this at all. There's no argument for this that makes sense. Chelsea fans are desperate for it to make sense, but it doesn't. The only way that it makes sense is if you assume the people doing it are stupid. And actually, what Henry said there is really, really true. Like I was talking to Ravi Ramaneni on the Transfer Flow podcast, and he worked in recruitment for the Seattle Sounders for a decade. And he said, when you have this number of people in the changing room, you start having to ask people to like share lockers and stuff. And he said, when you ask like 2 youth players who are maybe going to get a shot in the first team to share a locker, they might do it. When you're asking 2 guys who earn 150k a week to do it, they don't want to do it. They believe that they're above it. And it doesn't matter whether the manager says, these are my players. The other guys are hanging around the club. They're in the dining room. They're in the treatment room. They're talking. Like, this creates a problem. It creates a real morale problem for the club.
No, I think you've said very fair things. Fofana, 70k.
So, actually, that's still mental.
That's
so
much money.
That's mental for a guy they bought from Malmo.
Yeah. Which is mad to think as well that Palmer was on still less than that last year.
To give Chelsea some slight respite, as we said, against City they weren't terrible. They actually, I thought they showed a few signs of life, and I think they will still beat some of the smaller teams. in the Premier League this season, and they could click into gear. I actually think Felix was all right when he was on at Chelsea last time. I enjoyed his 6 months there, red card aside. So at least he actually has a sense of what's going on coming in. But yeah, Sterling, the best case scenario for Sterling, as Pat said, Juventus, PSG, maybe like AC Milan.
I think.
You think he's going to Arsenal, don't you? Go on.
I genuinely think Arsenal might come in for a loan move.
I honestly think that makes the most sense for everyone, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Arsenal can
I think
afford
Arsenal
to pay
would be more than happy to do it. And also,
so
he had a
knows
really good relationship with Arteta. Like back at Man City, Sterling and Arteta worked on like his finishing, his timing of getting into the box. Like if you watch back on the documentary that they did years ago. Remember the first one that Man City did?
All or Nothing.
All or Nothing. Yeah, exactly. Arteta talks about how like he really likes Raheem. One also has a personality, and like he does bring experience. He does bring a lot to that Arsenal side, and so he's someone that can play on both wings as well. It's needed. I think it. And finally, we've got someone there that if they need to give Saka a rest, he can do that job fantastically.
Yeah, as you said, the turmoil at Chelsea has been through so many managers. The guy that brought him in is not even there anymore. I actually think going to someone like Arsenal, where there's such a clear structure, hierarchy in place, and the levels are so high within that squad at the moment that Sterling has to step up to it. Because I sometimes feel that he's within the chaos of Chelsea. He sort of just took his foot at the gas. I don't believe that he has a divine right to start for that Chelsea side whatsoever. I don't believe that his statement saying I'm unhappy coming out before the game is appropriate whatsoever. I don't think he's done enough on the pitch in the 2 years, given the money and the contracts he was given. I don't think I think he's underwhelmed, quite frankly. So I don't think he can particularly complain too much, but he does have the right to set out his contract if he wants to.
Oh, 100%.
But really, he should be pushing. The problem is you can only loan out 6 players, and you already loaned out 3. So Chelsea have just got to make some big decisions about what you're actually going to do with these unwanted souls. So yeah, Arsenal or a move to Italy for me would be the most sensible thing for him to pursue.
Okay. I actually disagree on the statement. Like I was like, I'm fine with it. His statement, like because I thought the fact that he's not in the squad is a sign that it is not about quality. Because if Mudrik's in the squad but Sterling isn't, I think the argument that he has not played well enough to be in that squad is bollocks. Like there's absolutely no way Mudryk should be in that squad ahead of him. And we could say he's underwhelmed relative to like where he was a couple of years ago, but that's also kind of, I think, a product of how bad Chelsea are, and also a product of like the stage he's in his career. Like he's played well enough to be in the squad at least, and also there's nothing to suggest throughout his career that Sterling has been a poor trainer, that he hasn't put the effort in. You know, like he played under pretty much the most demanding manager in the world. I don't know. I can understand that you don't want him like releasing that statement, but when Jamie Carragher says something like, "Oh, he just needs to like play better," I think, well, he's played better than half the people who made that bench. I don't really understand why he's not making the squad. Like I don't know. I think that that's kind of a bit of a lie from Chelsea to pretend like, oh no, he's not good enough to make the squad. It's like, look at the squad. The squad is full of dreadful players who don't belong in the Premier League.
But is there not a level where you're getting paid, as you said, that the money that he is, 325k a week, right? Like a manager has sat you down and told you you're not in the squad this week, and probably not going to be in the squad. And if I was you, like maybe look to move elsewhere. To then put out a statement and be like, I really don't understand the clarity on what's happening at the moment. Like,
but was he actually?
Supposedly, that's what. That's
but I mean, like that's a briefing as well. Like if Chelsea are going to brief stuff like that, then you're kind of within your rights to go to the press and give your side.
True.
I just don't really think that's true. Again, like there's nothing in Raheem Sterling's career to suggest that he would do this. Not since he was like 21 years old, at least. So I don't really get it. But yeah, I think if you went to a club like Arsenal, there's a manager with a clear idea. There's a role that would clearly suit him, though I still think, you know, you'd start Martinelli over him. But but he would be an excellent backup for either of the wingers. Like you say, experienced. He's won everything. I think he's still an excellent player with plenty to offer. That would make an awful lot of sense for me. And Arsenal are one of the few teams who could afford to cover most of his wages. Yep. But I suspect that if that happens, Chelsea are going to have to eat a lot of it. I suspect we'll see a lot. If that happens, there'll be a lot of briefings from Chelsea that are like, we're getting a fee and they're paying all his wages. And I suspect that will not be true at all. I suspect that Chelsea will have to eat a lot of the wages in order to make that happen, because they'll say it's better to take a £9 million loss on him this year than to take a £17 million loss on his wages and pay another year of amortization and not book a fee and then have the same problem next year.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Again, we'll probably come back to Chelsea maybe a little bit later. There's a few players that could be spoken about. Henry, why don't we go to one of your players, my friend?
It's just sort of a bit more boring after that one, really. Isn't it? I want Joe Gomez to move. I won't spend too long on this, but he's actually 27.
Yeah.
Which he's not this kind of young prospect anymore. So these are his prime years. He's played in his career 11,000 league minutes, which Bellingham had beaten before his 21st birthday, which gives you a sense of like how little football Joe Gomez has really played. And there's been a few injuries. There has been a few injuries.
Yeah.
He's only once hit 2,000 minutes for Liverpool. And that was actually in 2019-20 when they won the league. So, which shows he was a big part of the squad that won a very competitive league. So he's clearly got potential. On FBref, he's like listed as a fullback. I'm not quite sure if he's a fullback or a centre-back. I mean,
definitely a centre-back, but he played left-back last season.
That's it. But he's got pretty good numbers. As a fullback, he's very defensively solid. Yeah. You look at his tackles and interceptions numbers, but they're warped by the fact that he kind of moves around a lot on the pitch. But yeah, I still like the play I see in Joe Gomez. He passes the ball a lot. Like 70 passes per game, and a lot of them are progressive. So you can trust him with the ball to move forward. I think he's always been slightly better than he's not. We've never looked at Joe Gomez and said there's sort of a Route 1 defender, old school defender. He's always had a little bit of something about him. I've liked, he was very exciting at one point in his career. At this point, and he's still valued at 28 million euros on Transfermarkt. So again, people do value this guy. He can't just be a bench option at Liverpool for the rest of his career. Quansah's now in ahead of him. Konate is definitely ahead of him. At right back, it looks like Trent is probably going to have a great time under Arne Slot once again. But even that, I don't think he's a good next option to Arne Slot. Like he was in the the England squad the whole tournament, but no one knows that. No one remembers that because he was just
for the Euros.
For the Euros, yeah. But he was just on the bench the whole time. He didn't come off the bench, didn't do anything. And I'm just worried that is going to define Joe Gomez's career if he's not careful. He needs to move. He needs to get out of it.
It is worrying that a new manager's come in Slot and then started Quansah ahead of him.
I don't know if it is worrying.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah,
Quansah was pretty fantastic last season.
He's a good player.
No, but if you're Joe Gomez, surely you're then sitting there and going, well, okay.
But is it worrying, or are you just like, I've basically never been fit? Like, there's like one season of good data on me, and the rest of the time, like, I've barely played. Like, if Joe Gomez had been fit the last 5 years, Joe Gomez would probably still be a starter or at least a regular player for Liverpool. Yeah. Like, everyone believes in his talent. That's not the problem. He just can't stay fit. So he needs to go to a club where either they have like a different, like it might just be that a different training program, different kind of medical staff, like something clicks for him a little bit more. But the problem is he needs to go to a club that wants to have a lot of the ball. But he also needs to go to a club, and he needs to go to a club that will make him a starter if he's fit, but also a club that can afford to deal with the fact that he might miss half the season to injury.
Not many clubs out there, mate.
Yeah, I mean, like maybe like a Newcastle makes sense. Like if Newcastle are looking at 65 mil for Gay, if they could get Gomez for a third of that, which I think would be actually a really good fee given his injury problems, that would make a lot of sense for me, because I don't think that Gay's any better. He's just fitter, and he's not even left-footed, but he plays on the left side.
My concern would be Liverpool pricing him out of a move. If we look at because they do drive quite a hard bargain. Yeah. Bobby Clark for 11 million. Vandenberg is looking at 20 million plus 5 in add-ons. Like that's a lot of money for a guy who's been pretty good. Like he's a promising footballer, and I think they'd look at Gomez and go, well, he's an England international. He's done this, he's that, he's in his prime years. You should pay 30 million for him. And I wonder, as for all the reasons that Pat has just alluded to, will clubs bite at that? But I think Joe Gomez, for the sake of his career, has to believe that he can do more at this point. And obviously, playing for Liverpool is great, whatever. But he just needs to get minutes. He needs to go somewhere, and Newcastle would be an amazing move. For someone like Newcastle. That's the level, really. Like, I'll accept seeing Fulham linked with him. I sort of think, oh, that would be great for us. Is that great for him, really? That would just be sort of him riding out into the distance.
You boys bringing everyone home
we
at the moment.
We are absolutely cooking right now. I'm loving being a Fulham
Anderson
fan.
looks like that's happening. Yeah.
It is happening. But anyway, Joe Gomez, he needs to leave. He needs to leave.
Okay, I like it. Patrick, who is your suggestion, my friend?
I'm going to do my most boring one, which is Noni Madueke. Then we can just move on from Chelsea.
Sure.
This is a player who I think should try and get a move, because he probably can get a contract as good as the one he's on now elsewhere. Also, it's a running theme with my players is that he plays in a position which is super, super valuable worldwide right now because there's a relative lack of players. If you're a left-footed right winger right now, it's a great time to try and get a big contract at a big club because there's a real gap in the market there. Brighton have just gone and moved for two really exciting young players who play that position in Gruda and Minte. But look, Liverpool are going to be looking for a left-footed right winger. Arsenal would like somebody who can cover on the right. We've just seen City go and get somebody, but they were able to get him for a song because he was in their group already. United need a right winger. There are tons and tons and tons of teams who need this left-footed right wing player. Even Real Madrid. Real Madrid have got tons of outstanding attackers, but nobody plays on the right wing very well. Rodrigo can cover there.
Yeah, he does.
Mbappe can cover there, but you've basically got a team that's really, really stacked towards the left.
Which you saw actually on the weekend.
Sure, and I think that might be a problem as the season goes on. Maybe you see somebody who's inferior or currently inferior. Like Arda Güler is, I would say, currently an inferior player to Rodrigo, but he's a left footer who can play on the right, so he might end up playing a lot. So I think that Noni Madueke can probably get an interesting move right now. He's homegrown. He hasn't played a lot. That's the issue. Yeah. But when he played last season, he looked fantastic. I thought
he's good.
He's clearly physically capable of playing in this league.
Yeah.
He's fast enough. He's strong enough. He's also highly technical. He's a really good passer. He carries the ball into the box all the time. He led Chelsea for carries into the box last season. And while he didn't play a lot, he played over 1,000 minutes. It's enough to draw some conclusions. The end product could be a little bit better. He's like a 0.4 expected goals and expected assists per 90 player. You kind of want that to see that kick up over 0.5. But again, Chelsea, crap. And it's hard to really know what he would look like in a team that said, okay, your role is to be a creator or your role is to get on the end of things rather than your role is to come on in the last 20 minutes of games and run at defenders. So that might juice his numbers a bit. But on the other hand, not having a consistent run also, I think, probably affects his numbers negatively. So I think it's a bit of a wash. But he's a really good young player. I mean, I know that Chelsea have said, we want 60 million for him. That's not going to happen.
Newcastle are looking at him, aren't they? Newcastle, I suppose, have been interested in him.
The only thing about Newcastle is...
They're desperate for a right winger.
But then what, they got rid of Minter.
They did.
And that to me feels like a PSR move, as in Minter sells, right? You can book,
he was so good at Brighton.
And you can book the sale right now. So he sells for 30 mil, you say, right, that's 30 mil on our books. Yeah. And then even if you sign someone for 50 mil, you sign them on a 5-year deal and it's only 10 mil that goes out each year. So that might be the idea there, the PSR idea. But they definitely need a right winger. Madueke would be fantastic for them. If Arsenal want a winger and they don't want to go for Sterling, they don't want to go for this loan option on a veteran, which has been talked about with Rafinha and Sterling and Coman. They don't want to go for they don't think they could get, say, Nico Williams.
Yeah.
Then the other thing they can do is spend a reasonable fee on someone who could be a star. And when I look at Madueke, I think, at the very least, I think you're going to be a good Premier League player. At best, I think you could be a star. If Chelsea wants 60 mil, it's not going to happen. But we've got a week left of the window. And I just think
things have to start moving, don't they?
Every single day that we get closer to that deadline, Madueke's price is going to drop. And at a certain point, and because he only moved to Chelsea for a lot of money. This is the problem with Chelsea.
Was it 30?
Yeah, this is the problem with Chelsea's buying policy. They actually buy players for top dollar, so they can't really increase their value because Enzo Fernandez could become the best midfielder of all time. And he's still only going to be worth the price you paid for him. But
it's never going to happen.
But the thing is, with Madueke, he's been there, is it 2 years now or just
a year and a half? Maybe something like that. He joined in January, I think.
Okay.
He joined in January.
So 30 mil, he's probably on like a 7-year deal. Or let's call it a 6-year deal for the sake of the maths. So you probably only need to get like 22, 23 million pound fee in order to wipe this off the books entirely. Well, I reckon you could probably get 35 and turn a little profit on the player and it not really affect your team at all because you've bought Pedro Neto, you've got Mudryk, like there's loads and loads of stuff there. So I think that Madueke, look, if he just wants to sit there and earn, he can sit there and earn like till he's like 25, 26 and then still get a good move and have a good career. But I suspect that he's probably on the upper 5 figures. I suspect he's probably on 80, 90. And that means that probably he could go and get 110, 120 somewhere else. Palace need a right winger as well. Like there are lots of teams, and Palace also are going to be flush with cash because of their sales. There are a ton of teams who could really do with a player like this.
Yeah.
And if the fee is like 35 mil, that's pretty phenomenal. Like that's actually a really good price, I think.
He's a very good player. He's someone who I think, what's been really good to see at least at Chelsea is him kind of sort out his injury issues.
Yeah.
He was having some terrible times in the Eredivisie with injuries.
Sure.
And it seems like he's managed to become a little bit more stable in that front, though maybe not playing as much has also helped with that factor as well. He's someone as well who's so confident in his own ability. It's really interesting talking to like some of the Chelsea staff during the tour and stuff, and they were saying about how like he has so much self-belief in himself that drives him forward and makes it like in every. And I kind of thought maybe every footballer thinks this, but they were saying about how like in every one-on-one situation and every shot he thinks it's going to be a goal. Every one-on-one situation he thinks he's going to beat the defender, so on and so forth. So yeah, I think if there's a future where he's not playing too often at Chelsea, then for his own sake, like he's also got he could easily end up getting minutes for England in some way, shape or form. But that will only happen if he's playing consistently and kind of gets to that next level.
If I were him, I'd just look at Pedro Neto arriving and I just think I'm twice the player that he is. Like he's not very good, and he's also got injury problems. Like Pedro Neto is not a great player and he's always injured.
I was pitching Neto as a dream signing for United a few weeks ago.
I like Neto, man.
I think that Pedro Neto is probably worth about 25 mil. And he's gone for 60, and that's assuming he doesn't have his injury issues. Like Pedro Neto, when he's been on the pitch, has not been great for the last couple of seasons, and he's been injured all the time.
He has been injured.
So I just don't really see like why Pedro Neto is worth 60 mil. But if I were Madueke, I think I was way better last season than Pedro Neto
but
was.
even
in
that,
every
like,
regard for a team that wasn't much better than Wolves. But let's be honest, they're both crap.
But you're so right in terms of like he's now got like Palmer looks like Palmer will be the one on the right realistically.
Maybe.
And like we've
no one's
really
safe for that.
seen,
No one's safe in that start.
Maybe
we've never really even.
You might have to move Palmer to the hole because
but sure. But even if he's in the hole, then it's like then it's Neto or then it's Felix.
Lavia
looked
good.
Lavia did look good.
But then you're in the situation where you're going to bench a guy you've just signed. You've either got to bench Neto or you've got to bench Kiernan Dewsbury Hall or you've got to bench Joao Felix, and you probably have to bench two of them. Or one.
Lots of games, mate.
Or Nkunku.
Lots of games to play this season. 80.
Yeah, well, why don't you have 80 players on the books then?
Club World Cup. Just you wait. Okay, another one very quickly. Ben Chilwell could also be on the move, so we'll see.
Good luck
all right, back to me. Let's talk about someone that we've spoken about quite a few times, to be fair, but I just want to see him playing football, and it doesn't look like it's going to be happening this season if he stays at Manchester United. Jadon Sancho. And you know where I'd love to send him? Crystal Palace.
What?
I'd love to send him to Crystal Palace.
Crystal Palace.
I would also like to see that. I'd like to send him to Fulham because then I can go and watch him. Like, what you
no, but
about?
my point being,
My point being is
Dortmund obviously aren't going to go for the fee. No one's going to be paying Manchester United what they want at all.
PSG might.
I mean, I don't think that will happen, but sure, PSG could. Yeah, there's a world maybe PSG will spend 50 million for him, and so like a loan looks like another loan move will probably be the place for him. And I just think keep him in the Premier League, like allow him to go to a team where he'll get a lot of minutes, like who need a winger. You mentioned earlier about Palace needing specifically a right winger, but he can do that. He can also play off the left as well, much better than bringing in someone like fucking Wilfried Zaha. Yeah, that's for sure. Jesus.
Would be better than Louis Zaha.
I think he showed last season, the 6 months that he was at Dortmund, like there is still a player in there that needs a bit of love, needs a bit of an arm around the shoulder to kind of be shown that you are our guy here and we're going to trust you. And also not just have the eyeballs and the kind of transfer figure that he's had over his head for the last few years here at United. It was very interesting that like he wasn't even in the matchday squad against Fulham. And Amad Diallo is very much going to be that right winger option for them this season, it seems like. If not, like you might even see Mason Mount moved out there, if not playing this kind of central midfield
2-2-2.
Yeah, 2-2-2. Yeah, exactly. 2-2-2. And I also do understand, like we've spoken about him so many times over possible moves or where the next best place is for him. But I just think the guy needs to be playing football now, and he can happily stay there and eat up the big contract that he's on, and that's absolutely fine. But I think he showed last season that he wants to also be playing his football. And he said that before as well. And so I think a loan move would be pretty good.
Yeah, well, a loan move
Newcastle
is the best
as well.
of both worlds,
Newcastle
right?
as well could be another place.
But loan move is best of both worlds in that you still get paid.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
the way
it
you're
is,
getting
it
paid,
is,
but
it
you
is.
play football. Whereas the problem is if he does a permanent move, he's going to get paid significantly less, right?
I mean, his contract probably goes under just like over half of his wage gone. Like, he's on pretty good money, if I remember at United, 200 plus. And I don't know if a team will be willing to go anywhere near that. Much more, I think,
United
closer
can
to
have
just
to pay some of
100
Yeah.
or something.
I
Aren't
mean,
they?
he's shown that he's willing to go abroad again. He's. I think if an Italian team came in for him, he would be at least considerate at this point. But it's.
Well, Barcelona are supposedly interested.
I think Crystal Palace is too much of a. Well, Barcelona need a right winger. They need a winger. So they should be, as Pat said, they should be looking at people like Madueke or Sancho, more feasible options than the transfers that they are pursuing. So I just think Crystal Palace is too much of a step down for Sancho at this point.
But he could probably go back to the Bundesliga. Like Leverkusen would be an interesting move for him because it's like a high possession system. I mean, what he should really do though is probably look at the managers who he would want to work with and who maybe have made a career of reclamation projects. So like if he could, obviously the dream would be like if you could go and play for Atalanta or something where there's a manager.
Lookman looks like he's going to be off.
Well, there's a possibility. He's linked with Arsenal, but I don't know. I mean, like, they want a lot of money for him. But like, if you could go and get a loan move somewhere like that, that would be absolutely fantastic.
Amazing.
Because also, actually, Atalanta, if you moved there currently, you know, like as you said, he's like comfortable moving abroad. But they're also there's Ben Godfrey there. There is Lookman there. Like, it might be a little bit of an easier landing for him. That is the kind of club where they are good at saying, "What are you good at? We'll construct a role for you," rather than saying, well, you have to play on the right wing because that's the position we've got open and you have to do what we tell you to do on the right wing. He needs to go to an intelligent coach who's like, you're not really like a one-on-one winger in the Premier League. You're not really capable of that. You just don't have it. What you do have is outstanding passing ability, a great touch. And you can dribble, but you're just not a, breeze past a fullback.
He's never been rapid
in the Premier League
as well. Yeah. We'll see what happens with it. I think that'll be a move that will definitely happen in some way, shape, or form. Like, I know they kind of fixed their relationship, didn't they? Him and Ten Hag.
I thought they shook hands and moved on.
Yeah,
but
apparently
not.
But if he's not in the matchday squad, I thought that was quite a damning statement. Henry, back over to you, mate.
Yeah, okay. I was going to do Ramsdale, but then I was like, well, what's the argument? He's number 2 at Arsenal, and he shouldn't be. Well, not that he shouldn't be number 2, but he should be playing.
His one's always been about getting into England, isn't it? Like, you're never really with a starting goalkeeper if you're not.
Yeah, exactly. And if Wolves do take him, then great. I mean, then that would be a good
Isn't
move.
he a West Brom fan?
I'm not sure.
Literally no idea.
Sorry,
but the player that I've gone for in print is just Osimhen because I'm beginning to get quite worried about what exactly is going on.
So is he playing under Conte?
He did not play this weekend. They started
with a 3-0 loss to Hellas Verona.
They started with Simeone up front.
Okay, wow.
But it's going to be Lukaku, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
And it's going to be
David Neres on the right.
Yeah.
It's actually a really sick front line for Lukaku, Neres.
If they make that happen, currently their squad is crap. Like currently their addition so
bringing
far.
in Billy Gilmore.
Don't worry, they're going to pay 20 mil for Billy Gilmore and bring in McTominay. Maybe.
Yes, exactly. Spinazzola, he's 31. This Buongiorno centre back for 35 million euros. I don't know. Like them replacing Kim with Nathan is one of the worst replacements of all time last season. But it's Osimhen is still good. Like he still scored 13 last year. Huge shot numbers, huge touches in the box. 13, which I know is not great, but if you consider that Napoli put up the worst defensive Serie A in the history of the competition, it is shocking. Conte, there's no guarantee that he'll be a success because it could go up in smoke. Him and De Laurentiis is the worst match made in is a match made in hell.
And they got battered on the opening day.
They lost 3-0 to Hellas Verona, who I'm pretty sure are a promoted side. Like it's not good for Napoli at the moment. And I just think Osimhen's still only 25, which is nuts. Like in my head, I thought he was 28 in his prime years, but he's not. He's still only 25. I'm just concerned because are Chelsea really going to go into him? I can't fathom the idea that Chelsea can actually afford another transfer. And then the other options, PSG, who have spent 80 million on Colomwani and the other guy. Yeah, exactly. But I'm looking at Osimhen thinking, I'm not sure he can do another year at Napoli and maintain what he could do, but I just don't think it helps him at this point in his career. I think he's really got to push to be an elite side, an elite competition.
And if Napoli are also going to get their most amount of money for him, like banking on another season, which they don't quite know how this Napoli side is going to be this year, where he got 13 goals last season, and the season before they were quoting 100 million for him.
Yeah.
Now that fee's already dropping. Like another season, will it drop even more? Like they're going to
Koulibaly situation,
It
right?
is,
when
yes,
they were like,
exactly,
we want
He was
110 mil, and you're like,
yeah.
they end up selling him for like 37.
Exactly that.
So yeah, I'm worried that he's going to lose his fire or status
Charm,
I think for his career's sake, he needs to keep pushing on. He's been at Napoli for 4 years. He owes them nothing. He helped win them the league title. He's been a beast. His injury record is actually really warped because it's just like things like a broken bone in his face and dislocated shoulder and stuff like that. It's not stuff that... It's not a...
Recurring injuries.
Yeah, it's not something with his
hamstring,
muscles, which you get really concerned about. He's just had some freak injuries.
It does feel like he's going to move.
But
Whatever
where?
happens.
Where's he going to go? He's just... I don't know.
I think it's about getting this I don't think Napoli are going to be happy with what deals they get offered, basically. Like, I think people are going to ask like a loan move with then an option or / obligation, possibly.
That's crazy.
If he hits a certain amount of goals or whatever it is, which is crazy. But realistically, unless Chelsea are going out there and going, yeah, cool, here's 60, 70. I just don't see any other team doing it.
It's true.
Yeah.
The only thing I can say is Napoli...
Arsenal are never going to do it.
If the price gets that low, maybe you will see teams come back in.
Yeah, true.
You know, I'm
60 odd.
Like I don't think Arsenal are going to do it either, and I don't think PSG should do it. But yeah, if you see the price come down and down and down, at a certain point when it's getting to like the 60, 70 level, I think quite a few teams would be like, well, we could do with that.
Yeah.
You know, like Juventus would think, we could do with that. I know they've got Vlahovic, but like there are a bunch of teams who could maybe reconsider whether they need this player. You know, like Barcelona have no money but are looking at Rafael Leao. Well, if Osimhen's price starts coming down and you're looking at, you know, the decline in Lewandowski, which you'd expect at this age, I would start thinking, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Okay, well, we'll see with Victor.
And weirdly, Barca is a step up on Napoli right now in a big way.
Let us know in the comments below. You think all these players should go as well before the window closes, and if there's any players that we haven't mentioned, let us know down there as well. Patrick, player number 2, please, my friend.
Again, a global position of need. Ryan Ait-Nouri.
I mean, where can't he play? Is the better question sometimes.
I don't know. What do you mean?
He played striker at one point for Wolves last season.
Well, he shouldn't. He shouldn't. But the position he plays is so valuable. Like, again, if you're trying to recruit a left back for a top club right now, where do you look? Like, loads of teams have moved to this like left centre back thing.
Yes.
And I think partially that's a tactical thing, but it also might be a bit of a response to the fact that it's easier to find. It's hard to get really good left-footed centre backs, but it feels easier to find those right now than it is to find top-class left backs. And over the next few years, City will want someone eventually, I think. Liverpool will need somebody in the next couple of years.
United need one now.
United need someone now. Real Madrid want to get Alphonso Davies off Bayern, which means Bayern will want somebody. There are a ton of quality teams who are going to need a left back who is comfortable in possession and adds more. And he actually does that. He's an above average passer. He's a really, really good ball carrier. Like, he completes over 2 dribbles a game. His tackle success has gone up every single year at Wolves. And now it's pretty good. Like, it started as fairly bad.
Yeah.
And it's gone up and up and up. He is most comfortable as a kind of flying wing back. But I think in a side that plays with a more defensive right back, that's completely fine. He also recovers a lot of possession, which is like, you know, it's not a see ball, go get ball situation, but it does mean that if you're playing a counter-pressing system, he can be a useful part of pinning teams in. Gets fouled a lot. And if you've got a left winger who likes to cut inside, then he makes a lot of sense because Davies is only going to be accessible to Real Madrid if he leaves Bayern. And Teo Hernandez is great, but it's going to cost an arm and a leg to winkle him out of AC Milan. Well, if you wanted another guy kind of in that mold, like he's not as creative, but he is a really good ball progressor, then I think that Ryan Ait-Nouri is quite a good candidate for it. I suspect he could be had for 40 mil, something like that, because he is still a defender. And if United went out and got him for that, then I'd say, great. Like, obviously, it depends on whether, like, Ten Hag's going to find his, like, you know, coaching manual this season. But I think a decent manager should be able to get a tune out of him in that position. So I just really like the player. And if I were him right now, I'd be thinking, you know, if Wolves go down this season, I can probably get a good move out of it.
Oh, 100%.
That's what I'd be thinking, because he's reaching the point in his career where he should go. He's still just about pre-peak.
Yes.
It's a good time for
you also want to see really what he's got in his locker because Gary O'Neill, his style of football is not great, is it? Numbers wise, it's poor. I think you alluded to that last week. It's like they perform below. They're quite lucky in some ways, Wolves. Don't get me wrong, I think he did a great job with that team last year.
Done a good job.
But Ait-Nouri has a bit more of an X factor in that squad. But he's only ever going to serve a certain role within that Wolves system. You want to see a little bit more. You want to see him under a really top coach in a fun system. It's the kind of signing that Leverkusen would have made a few years ago, like when they picked up Nathan Teller and a lot of these guys, and they suddenly look great. Frimpong, whatever, out of Celtic. So yeah, I'd like to see Ait-Nouri go somewhere where he can develop the second half of his game, and we can really see what this guy's all about, because he is a great player.
Well, last season was his outlier season as well. Like, I think that was the first season where people started to really take notice of him, and so maybe a few clubs are thinking, well, because you're right there, like they're thinking, well, let's see how the second year goes. We can always come in January. If they do get relegated this season, we can get him up on a lot cheaper of a deal as well. So there might be a couple of moves there for him within the year, whatever happens. Okay, moving on to my other suggestion. I wasn't 100% set on. However, from a player perspective, I can understand if he'd want to make the move. Richarlison. Spurs.
No.
Because right now he's gone from being one of their most expensive signings and the guy that every Spurs fan wanted to come good and to work it out, and now he doesn't really have a position in the starting 11. Like, they've just spent all that money on Dominic Solanke to be their starting number 9. And then on the left wing, it's Heung-min Son. If it's not, they've just given a pro contract to Mikey Moore, who they really, really rate at Spurs and want to give a lot of minutes to as well, possibly in the Europa League. And so I kind of don't really know where Richarlison fits into that Spurs team right now. Like, he's got a contract until 2027. He's 27 years old himself now as well. And from an actual Spurs point of view and an Ange point of view, don't mind him staying.
I still think that's
good
quite
cover,
a thin
exactly. But if I'm Richarlison now, and you've gone from the guy who basically you were Brazil starting number 9, like they wanted you, Spurs paid a lot of money to get you in. And I think last season he got 10 goals in the league, which definitely is much better. Which is much better than the one he got the season before. But I just struggle to see him kind of starting really now. Even Timo Werner got in like ahead of him on the bench. I think he came for 1 minute in the end against Leicester. But Timo Werner was the person brought on first. That's really where you're getting ranked now under Timo Werner.
Solanke looked like a much better fit in that starting lineup, doesn't he? Proper forwards.
He definitely he's a bit more of a central figure for him, isn't he?
I respect Richarlison because he had that offer from Saudi and he said no.
Yes,
his dream is to play in the Premier League. His dream is to play in the Brazil side, and he doesn't think it would work going to Saudi. So he's you can't like write off his work rate.
No, for sure.
He clearly does try, but
I feel like I keep thinking Italy would be like a great place for him to go to. But I do think no one's going to be taking the risk on the money side of things for him.
Yeah,
it's tough. It's tough for him. It might be right now. He's saying no to Saudi. Let's see what he says in January when he's barely played and thinks, I kind of do with that.
I still think he'll play a reasonable amount because Son is old. Like, if you're like, Son's just going to play every minute, then like I think that's stupid.
It's not, but I think they're putting Timo Werner ahead of him on the wing.
You sure. But I still think there'll be minutes for him. Like, it's a really congested season.
Spurs are one injury away from needing Richarlison to step up.
True.
I think Spurs were hoping that he'd take that offer from Saudi.
Yes,
because they were like, then we'll get 60 mil to reinvest. And he said no. You know, that was when they were kind of linked with Chiesa, which were for about 25 mil, which I think would have made a lot of sense. I would rather, if I could swap Richarlison out for like a proper left wing understudy, you know, / a guy who's going to take Son's place. That I think would make a lot of sense, but if he's still there, I think he'll get used plenty.
Okay, well, we'll see. I just can see a situation by January where he starts to maybe get a little bit annoyed. And I really do think this Mikey Moore kid is super talented. We might see a little bit more of him as the season goes on. Henners,
all right,
back over to you, mate.
This is it, the big one. This is what everyone's been waiting for. Jack Grealish. I think he should push to leave City. this is more because I love Grealish. He's about to turn 29. 3 goals, 1 assist last season, only 1,000 minutes. He actually got more minutes for Villa in the 2019-20 campaign than he has done in the last 2 seasons combined for City in the league. My point is, we saw him being in that City side, saw that he dropped out of the England squad this year, which was a shame, because I thought he'd have been a useful asset in some ways. I think you have to be brave a little bit. Savinho's come in. It shows the kind of winger that Pep's moving towards. Savinho and Doku. Is Grealish in that mould? I'm not sure at the moment. But still, huge progressive numbers. Still, like, his touches in the box are absolutely insane. He is one of the best in the Premier League at breaking into those short areas in the box. So there's still a fantastic player there. But I know that people say that in the treble season he was brilliant, etc. But that almost feels like quite a long time ago now. It just feels as if this Pep City team has just evolved away from that already. I don't think he's going to get more minutes, really. I don't think he's ever going to be a starter again in that side for all that. Pep's pretty ruthless. Once he makes up his mind on a player, I don't think he goes back on it.
Do you not think, you said there he's not like Savinho and Doku, but he can, he's not as quick, definitely, but he can be.
He can be, but I just
Peppified.
He's still going to use Silva over him because he trusts Bernardo Silva more. He still would rather play Foden on the wings because he prefers Foden more. I look at that. I just don't think that Pep really ultimately trusts Grealish to start him week in, week out. And as I said, Pep's never been someone to really change his mind once he has sort of landed on an opinion on a player. So I just want, like I said, about to turn 29 years old, some of the best years. So many clubs would love him. Even if he went back to Villa for a year and played on loan there, I just want to see him. I just want to see week in, week out Jack Grealish doing what he does best, making an impact. He can't be the main man at City because he's just not going to be because they've got so many main men. And I don't think he has the explosive rawness of Doku to make an impact within that kind of system. So at this moment in time, I think he's just... he could stay and win loads more at City next year and play a bit. And obviously there will be minutes for him because City are going to play more games than anyone in the history of humankind. But I don't think that he should be ultimately happy with the situation that he's in. It can't all just be about money and being a squad player to win trophies. He needs to be starting more. Oscar Bob is preferred ahead to him. I know he's injured, so that's probably going to rule it out.
He was.
Alvarez has been bold, made that move to Atletico Madrid. Great introduction videos for them, Gallagher and whatnot. Really cool to see. I think Grealish has to be bold and make a similar move because, I don't think he really loves City.
I disagree on this.
Wow.
I think he should stay because I think that what you said about Pep not changing his mind, I don't think that's true at all. Like, Pep quite often changes his mind radically, like in between seasons. So, for example, there was the year when people like Bernardo Silva was like, he should have been nominated for the Ballon d'Or this year. And the next season, he didn't really play that much. Foden was in and out of the squad. Somebody like Laporte was like their best defender, then went out. Stones was their best defender, then went out, came back, like got a new role in the team. And if I were Grealish, I'd look at it and I'd say, yeah, maybe Pep is moving towards more conventional wingers again. But also, Kevin De Bruyne is like 33 now, and I would look at the shape of Grealish's play, and I would say he's much more akin to that role than he is to the Doku role. Like zone mover through the middle of the park with huge creative numbers. Grealish is probably actually quite a good heir to De Bruyne in that regard. Like a totally different player because he does it more with carrying than with passing, but he is a very creative passer. He's got a good long shot on him, and he can dribble through the heart of the pitch. Like, so I would sort of look at that team and I think, it looks like they're bringing back Gundogan, but Gundogan and De Bruyne are here for like a couple of years, realistically, before they're totally phased out. And yeah, by that point, like Grealish is like 30, but I think I'm going to play more and more and more. De Bruyne is going to get injured this season. There are going to be minutes for me in this team if I can play my way back into contention. And I do think Pep does actually allow people to do that. It's quite often the team we see from Pep the first 2 months of the season is not the team that they are by kind of February or March when they really kick into gear. So if I were Grealish, I think I'm going to get my head down and do what I can. And like, if I play my way back into this team, then there's a chance to be really integral over the next few years. Plus, Pep might go at the end of the season. And whoever comes in next might say, yeah, well, obviously I want Jack Grealish playing in this side. Like, we're going to play a more conventional 4-3-3 or we're going to do whatever.
Have a 10.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you mean. If he wants to really play the season and be sure of it, a loan would be good. But I think because he's not a proper winger, he's not a proper 10, he's something in between, and because his wages are high, I think it's really hard to find a natural home for him. But certainly anyone looking at Eberechi Eze, if they think that they can loan Jack Grealish, great. But I think City are not going to sell him.
Fair enough. I've been defeated.
No, it was a very good talking point. Very good talking point. He also just seems happy there. Like, I don't think he seems pretty
Do you
happy.
think so?
Does he?
I don't think
so.
he does. I think Henry's right about that. He
Nah,
looks
man.
miserable.
I think every time he gets some of that champagne after he wins the Premier League, and he loves
It's just
it.
something they wheel out for a media thing because it's like, oh, look at what a nice guy and what a nice club we are. They're like, oh, look at Jack Grealish talking to some young kids because he's a really like man of the people. Oh, look, and he's ours, and he's ours. They use him more for media than they do on the pitch.
Yeah, because they're like, he's like a handsome himbo, and they wheel him out, and he's just like, oh, I don't know where France is, and they're like, oh, it's cute, isn't it? And to be honest, it is. Like, everyone finds it adorable.
They're
He's good
devoid.
fun.
One of City's big problems is they're so good and professional. They've been devoid of much personality.
Yeah, he
he's
filled
like,
up.
all right, fellas. All
That's
right,
why they spent 100 million on him,
So,
just for personality.
So yeah, he's
Okay.
on pitch miserable.
Okay, well, let us know what you think about Jackie Grealish, the boy. Patrick, your final one, my friend.
Jakub Kiwior.
Wow, bosh.
Jakub Kiwior, like he's just like a player who plays again in a position of need.
Now that Calafiori's
He
joined
should 100%
as well,
leave.
like,
And
and
he's
Timber's
doing
back from
nothing.
injury.
And he's a left-footed centre back.
Yeah.
Left-footed centre backs are wanted everywhere. I think Arsenal let him go for like 20 mil or something, like, which is slightly more than they paid, or about the same. But he's behind Gabriel and Calafiori for the left centre back slot. He's behind Calafiori, Zinchenko, Tomiyasu, potentially Timber for the left back slot. What's he doing there? Like, you play in this position that people really, really want right now. And like, there was a rumour that if Palace sold Gay, they would go and get Kiwior. I like that. If you want a left-footed centre-back who's actually a decent passer and is reasonably quick, pretty good one-on-one, has now played in the league a little bit, I don't know why you wouldn't take a small gamble on Kiwior. You know, like, Wolfsburg are looking at Maxence Lacroix to replace Anderson.
Like 12 mil as well, isn't it?
Because he knows Glasner, right? It's cheap and he knows Glasner, and he's a pretty decent centre-back. He's not like a world beater, but the season has started, so you need somebody who knows it.
Yeah.
Like, well, Kiwior, I don't think it's going to cost a whole lot more than that. And again, like, he might end up being really, really good for you because he's 24, I think now. He's 24. He's apparently on under 60k a week.
Wow.
I just think that decent progressive passes, good in the one-on-one, reasonably good in the air. Like, this to me makes a lot of sense. If, say, you're a Newcastle looking for a left-footed centre-back, but certainly if you're a level below that.
I just feel like I haven't seen much of him.
No.
As in, like, the player of what Kiwior is, I can't vision it.
But we didn't watch him at Spezia that much.
He's kind of a
true.
signing. He's kind of a signing that Arsenal used to make, where they'd sort of punt 20 million on certain defenders and hope for the best. Like, he's just, I don't think he's contributed very much to that Arsenal system whatsoever.
I think he was always brought in to be a squad player, right?
Well, and he did play, of course, in that period where Arsenal were probably at their best last season after Christmas. Yeah. But yeah, he played as left back. He played as a left back. I mean, sure, but when he was playing as a left back,
he was like left.
I still think you're getting a good idea of what he's like as a centre back.
Yeah,
I think that he was a really sensible signing for Arsenal to make. In that, left-footed centre backs are rare.
Yeah,
take it when you can gamble like 18 million on like a 22, 23-year-old and they might be great, you should do it if you can do it. It hasn't really worked out. He's not going to be a starter and they can probably just get that money back. But more importantly, he should say, I'm a good age. I'm like just about to enter my peak. And I've played in this league for a while and I've played in Serie A. Like, I'm a serious player. I've played under a serious coach. I'm reasonably positionally versatile. I can do a lot of stuff. Like, there are a bunch of teams in this league who could certainly make use of me. Fulham could make use of him. Brentford could make use of him. Certainly, like, any of the teams lower down could make use of him. But if you wanted to go back to Italy as well, I think there would be quite a lot of clubs, like, for example, Bologna. but I think he could probably aim higher than that. I think his wages are high enough that he can aim higher than that.
Yeah.
But that's absolutely fine. Like,
Milan were looking at him, I thought.
Yeah, and I thought, like...
Milan.
Nice.
But I just think, look, maybe that's like, that would be great, and maybe he is good enough for that level. But like, if not, try and get a move to a team like Palace, and I think you'll have a good season. Like, I think he's certainly good enough to play in the Premier League. He just might not be a starter for a title challenger. Like, that's all right. And yeah, he's just sitting on the bench. It's a total waste of his time there.
maybe he can go take over from Rob Holding at Palace, a former Arsenal defender as well.
Sure.
So there we have it. Just a couple of quick fire questions, guys, before we end the video. Someone asked me what player do you feel is not given enough credit.
Kind of what we've answered.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, I'm not going to bother with that one. I actually put Jonathan David down there. I saw scored on the weekend.
Oh, bored of that man.
Yeah, just get your move.
I can't believe he didn't get the move.
I don't care.
No one's gone for him.
I don't care about him.
No one went for him. It was mental.
I love not having to think about Mbappe anymore, don't you?
Yeah.
Boring name, boring bloke.
And then he had and then they drew, didn't they? Here's a question: how much football do you guys actually watch?
Not as much probably as I should. I watch Fulham if they're on TV.
Mm-hmm.
I live with like 3 other guys, so
it's always on at some point.
It'll be on, but I'm not someone that would plan my day around watching a game. I would not go like, sorry, I can't do that because it's United versus Forest in the 3 p.m. kickoff. No, I'm not going to do that. So, but I think when you have to think about football a lot as part of your job, it's quite nice to have the weekends in a different way. If there's a big game, it's still great. I enjoy it, but no, I think highlights are a blessing.
Okay. You're obviously in a bit of a different situation with young kids as well. So
yeah, I used to watch a lot before I had kids.
You actually watch more because when we're watching a game when we're all tuned into a game and the WhatsApp chat for Football Daily, you do pipe up sometimes with Arsenal games.
Yeah, with Arsenal games, I try and see them, but like if they're at the weekend in the day, I just rarely get to watch anything. Yeah. Like I would say last season I watched under 1 game a week, but I watched Champions League, I guess, as much as I could. But like last weekend, I watched like 2.5, 3 games, which was like crazy for me. So I don't think I'll be able to do that consistently, but like a bit. And then we watch but you can watch the highlights. You can go back and watch bits of the games, and you can look at the stats. And when you look at the stats as well, you kind of know what you want to look out for. In the game.
True.
So it's not like so you can kind of use those 2 things to get a more targeted view.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, there are so many games that go on nowadays. It's impossible to be able to keep up with so much. Don't know what happened there. I watch just had a sharp intake of breath. I think I watch a decent amount. I do watch a decent amount. Like I probably watch in a week 5 or so. Especially, yeah. But then, like especially like the Champions League ones, you'll always end up watching that when that's on, and then Chelsea now in the conference, I'll have to watch that on the Thursday.
Yeah, the new Champions League, I think there's going to be a serious amount of football consumed this year.
Especially some of the big games that'll end up happening.
Also, your girlfriend's into sport. Does she watch it with you?
Yeah.
Because exactly. That in a way simplifies it. It's not like it's time away from
exactly. That. It's not like it's a fight over the TV or anything like that. It's just the big game's on. She'll want to watch it just as much. Exactly. Like she always watches every West Brom game she can, so that'll be on TV.
That's mad.
So yeah. The final question. Thought it was quite sweet from someone. How have things been for you guys now, 8 months away from FD?
Oh, big question. Come on, Hennes.
No, it's good. We're still doing this. No, it was.
Do you feel like you're accustomed?
I feel
to the new way of life.
Yes, I obviously went away for a bit. Went to Asia for a bit. Had a good time, and then that sounds a bit weird. Does that sound weird?
No, not you made it a bit weird, but it wasn't.
Now it feels weird.
Okay. No, I had and I've landed a new job, so it's sort of back to normal, really. But yeah, there was, I think, not working for a period when you've worked for so long. Is a bit of a shock to the system. But I mean, genuinely, I'm really pleased for Doogie and Mikey doing their thing. Moving on to, Doogie in particular seems to be smashing it. And he's so good as well. I was watching a clip of him talking the other day about something on Sky Sports News, and he's just really good. Do you know what I mean?
Just knows his shit.
Yeah, always. And he's eloquent, and fair play. So I'm pleased for them. At the end of the day, Sky is bigger than us, and it will just keep rolling on. And it was great to be part of it while we were.
Exactly. We're all on to bigger and better things now, like the Joe quiz.
Yes.
That if people, as you mentioned earlier, want to check out, then go over to Football Joe.
Yes.
Every Monday, Henry Hill will be hosting a quiz. Might see a couple
it is actually really good. You'll see some of these other guys. It's what the internet's been crying out for is a high-end production quiz. So, and it's even my brother-in-law said he found it really engaging. And if he's saying that, then there we go.
Not in a spaceship.
Please go have a look. Please go have a look.
Not in a spaceship. Yeah, we only do one.
Can I just say, Pat has been on fire this episode. Pat has been every player. He's been nailing him.
What are we doing post-match reviews now?
Yeah, can we review?
Like 99% of the comments were always like, "Oh, I see Pat, I click," or something like that, which is and on this occasion, Pat, you've gone full hand.
United fans weren't happy with you last week.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. United fans are always whining. Like everything I see that I'm on, where I talk about United fans, they're just like, yeah, classic. Oh, he just loves whatever Arsenal do and hates whatever United do. It's just like, have you literally watched anything I've
Honestly,
done?
over the majority of Pat's time on screen, I reckon you hated a lot, like 80% of what Arsenal.
I hate like 6 years of Arsenal, and it's just like, if United don't want me to tell them they're stupid, they should cease doing stupid things. Like, but look, it's I think that we try and be quite honest about stuff, and like, if you want to find someone who's going to tell you what you want, they're a bunch of and like all those guys out there who'll be like, United are amazing, United are going to win the league this season, it's incredible. Like, if you want to find those guys, you can find those guys, but if you just want to be told what you think, then why bother? Why not just sit in a room by yourself, which I assume is what those people are doing, and just think about how United deserve to win the league. Like that's fine, but like, it's the thing I always found weird is that sometimes you come on and you give a really strong opinion and people would say you're arrogant. Yeah. And I was like, I think it's arrogant to come on and say something you don't believe just so that you won't be mocked on social media, and or the other way is say something ridiculous so that you'll get clicks. To me, the least arrogant thing is to say, this is what I truly believe, and you can disagree with it if you want, and I'll change my mind if like new evidence comes to light. Like,
and I think we also try to do it in a bit of like a fun way as well. Like, you kind of have a laugh with it.
No, pure hatred.
Like, literally, like have a bit of a joke with it, and people go like, "How can they laugh at this situation?" It's like, it's just a.
It's our job. It's our job.
It's a joke.
Do you never laugh about a bad situation at your work? Like we've been talking about this shit for 10 years. We've been talking about like, Graham Souness thinks Paul Pogba shouldn't have got a haircut. Like, yeah, of course he thinks that. Like, there are reasons that he thinks that. Like, I don't know. It's just like all that kind of stuff. Like, after a while, you think this is silly.
We can have some fun.
This is a silly game. This is like if everybody played like Uno, but they got paid like 250k a week because they were like one of the better Uno players in the world. Like, that's what it is. Like, it's just a silly game that we like spend our free time on.
That's brilliant. That's the best way of looking at it. We're all just not as good as them at Uno. Yeah, well, boys, if people want to see you talk more about Uno, where can they check you out, Patrick?
The Transfer Flow podcast. I'm on that every week, a couple of times a week, talking to Ted Knutson, formerly of Statsbomb, talking to Ravi Ramaneni, who was like a serious backroom guy at the Seattle Sounders. I've also got my own podcast, Unseen Incidents, with Pete Dorman, formerly of Football Daily, which is a little bit more informal. And if you enjoy hatred and us just trying to talk about clothes and Pete trying to get me into watches, then you'll probably enjoy that.
Yeah, and Uno.
I've already.
Well, yes, make sure you check out Football Joe as well. Everything will be linked down in the description below. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys. Actually, I've got a video coming out on Monday, so enjoy that. Ooh. We'll see you then.